and it's called How Conventional Media Differs from New Media. It breaks it down pretty clearly. Old media, TV, print, traditional radio, is top down, it's scripted, it's built around deadlines, word counts, and sometimes, unfortunately, agendas. And the story often gets written before the interview even starts, and our job as the interviewee is to say the lines that make the story possible. But in the new media, and podcasts and YouTube and other social media, emails, newsletters, it's different. It's built on trust. It's built on access. It's built on authenticity. There's room to think out loud, to explore an idea without having all the answers from the start. There's space to be human. And that's what I want to live in with my patients. So again, if I try to do everything that I've got to do in a very finite amount of time during a broad, comprehensive exam, that's what I would think of as old media, right? It's scripted. I've got to check this box and that box and this box. Hello and welcome to the Chris Wolfe Podcast on iCode Media. Today I wanted to talk about scripting, and I wanted to talk about the way we communicate with our patients, and it was sort of flagged by this interaction I had recently. So let me talk about this first. One of the things that we work a ton with practices and doctors and their staff specifically is the way they communicate to their patients. And so it's going to seem a little bit weird, but we start by getting our message as clear as we possibly can by scripting, being direct with patients, and understanding the data that we'll want to be referencing within those patient conversations, whether that's related to ocular surface disease or dry eye, some people like to call it that, or if it's related to myopia management or glaucoma or macular degeneration or vitreomacular interface diseases, whatever it is to be very comfortable with the data and the things that you're likely to do for a patient based on that evidence and based on your clinical intuition, so that when you script that out, you say it enough times over and over and over again that you can modify it for that specific patient in a way that's comfortable and in a way that's human. And the reason I bring that up today is really sort of a bigger issue that sort of has been sitting a little bit heavy with me for the last few days. And it started with a media training session that I went through to learn something helpful about communicating with the public through the media specifically. And it was for a organization that I believe in, but I don't necessarily know that the training and the techniques that we're using currently and what might be thought of as the old media actually resonate with what people really want. So yes, you have to have your messaging polished, but really people want to get into the details, and specifically patients need to get into the details of why something that's very polished might relate to them in a way that's kind of messy. And so, but we can't get there without having that polishedness. And so the real thing that kind of set me off was, I walked off feeling after this communication training just off. Not because it was poorly delivered or disorganized, but because one particular moment that really caught me off guard. And I'll walk you through what happened, and I'll tie it into the broader trend I'm seeing, both from a media perspective and then how we translate that into having polished conversations with our patients, but also effective and human conversations with our patients. And so as we try to navigate this, I hope it's helpful. Please enjoy the conversation or the monologue. And as always, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, share it with your friends, and support those who support us. The most common questions I get include, what ophthalmological codes or evaluation and management codes should I use? What ICD-10 codes do I need to bill with this CPT code? What CPT codes can be billed together and what can't? And my favorite, how do I manage a patient who has diabetes who comes in for a quote-unquote routine eye exam? These questions really highlight the confusion and uncertainty that serves as a daunting hurdle for providers, makes it more challenging for them to care for their patients and provide those patients with the best opportunity for a lifetime of ocular health and clear vision. That's why we built iCode Education for this specific purpose. Our mission is to provide optometrists with resources to help you understand disease states, revenue cycles, and billing and coding so that you can put that on autopilot and truly care for your patients. Check out eyecodeeducation.com. That's EYECODE education.com. We've developed a premier billing and coding bundle that includes all of our billing and coding resources in one place. We also have a 10% discount code just for listeners of this podcast. Enter the coupon code EYECODEMEDIA22 at checkout. We'd love to work with you. Check out iCodeEducation.com. Hello, dedicated optometrists. Are you looking for a way to support your patient's vision and overall eye health? Let me introduce you to Vision Edge Pro, a visual performance supplement that stands out in our profession. Vision Edge Pro contains a balanced blend of mesozeaxanthine, lutein, and zeaxanthine in a 10-10-2 ratio. This combination has been scientifically shown to increase macular pigment density, which enhances visual performance, including contrast sensitivity and vision in glare situations. Additionally, Vision Edge Pro provides 300 milligrams of DHA and EPA, fulfilling the daily requirements for omega-3s as recognized by the leading health organizations. This ensures your patients receive the essential nutrients their eyes need for optimal health. Whether it's for everyday screen use, night driving, or enjoying the outdoors, Vision Edge Pro supports your patients in seeing their best. Recommend Vision Edge Pro for your patients today and help them achieve clearer, healthier vision. Contact your local MacuHealth representative for more details. Vision Edge Pro, because your patients deserve the best in eye health. Go to MacuHealth.com and use the coupon code PODCAST2024 at checkout for special discounts. So we were sitting in this training. It was virtual. I was sitting on my computer watching, and it was a one-on-one training, and the speaker was talking about how to frame our story when we're speaking publicly or being interviewed. And she said, it helps to assign roles in the story. So this is a quote from her. It helps to assign roles in the story. Think of it this way. The doctor is the hero and the patient is the villain, end quote. I had to interrupt. I said, wait, did you just say the patient is the villain? I said, that's a really weird way to think about it. And, you know, again, that's what I said to her. And now I'm kind of talking just to you right now. I'm not, that was my quote, but because in my world and hopefully in your world, the patient's the hero always. And that's the way we teach doctors and staff to think about our patients. We teach that the doctor is not the hero, we're the guide, and the patient certainly isn't the villain. And so we help the hero as the guide. We help the hero on their journey. That's our role. We diagnose, we treat, we advise, and then we listen. But we're not the center of the story. The patient is. And the moment I said that, she used a technique called bridging, where you acknowledge what is said and then immediately pivot to your talking point. She didn't address my concern. She just kept on moving. And that right there is the thing I want to dig into. So listen, I get why media training teaches us to do things like bridging. I get all of this, but I think it dehumanizes our perspective in a lot of ways. And when I ask large groups of people who the hero is, right? When a patient comes into the office, who's the hero in this scenario? It's no wonder why I get the answers I get. I almost never get that the patient is the hero. Now, I'm probably going to ruin this for any of those of you that listen and also might see me talk publicly, but people don't want to get caught in a question that they weren't prepared for. So I get that these media training techniques that, you know, talk about bridging, and they don't want to get caught in these in something that they weren't prepared for. So these techniques help them feel in control. And certainly, if you're the hero as the doctor, you're going to feel like you're in control. But I don't want to control the conversation. I want to contribute to it. So when a patient or a journalist or a listener asks a real question, I want to answer it, not redirect it, not twist it into something more on brand. I just want to give a real, honest answer. And that moment in the training session made me realize how deep the gap is in old media tactics versus new media expectations. And it brings me to a second story, obviously, is just, you know, thinking about these stories when I'm working with the media and people who are training me to be more polished with the media, and how that can harden me or make me less human with my patients. And so this story, you know, was a while ago, and it was basically the same mindset, and it's one that's really challenging. And it was a while back when we had just passed a scope of practice change, and actually it was not specifically related to scope of practice. It was more related to who is responsible for the patient's care when services are being provided in a remote setting. And so I was contacted by someone writing a feature story, one of the classic big media pieces, and it was supposed to be about innovation in eye care and evolving role of optometry. And so I made sense. I had become well versed in the topic, and I could give a lot of color to whatever would come up. And so we set a time up to talk, and I assumed that it would be a genuine interview, an open-ended conversation where the writer was gathering perspectives and trying to figure out what the actual story was, right? I think about this again, if I'm going to segue or take a sidestep into how we manage patients. I mean, if I'm doing a good job with my patients, I don't know what I want to do with them before I ask them any questions or get any information. I want to gather information first. And so, as we come back to the conversation that had unfolded in this interview, it became clear that the writer already knew exactly what they wanted the story to be. The questions weren't investigative. They weren't curious. They were just hunting for sound bites. So things like, would you say this issue is driven mostly by corporate greed? Or they would say something like, so you'd characterize your profession as being in conflict with technology? And then I'd answer with nuance. I'd say, well, it's more complicated than that. Or there are some good actors or bad ones. And then they'd move on quickly and dismiss them. They weren't following a thread of truth. They were building a prefab narrative. And my job was to provide quotes that helped them build that narrative, whether or not it was accurate. It's not journalism. It's not storytelling. It's not how I want to show up in the media space. But also, as we kind of sidestep to the way we communicate with our patients, do I ask questions that give me yes and no answers that are really important to the way I will act? But do I plant seeds? Do I say, do I plant seeds about assuming that the patient has a problem that they may not, or do I allow for a back and forth dialogue by asking open-ended questions? Now, there's this balance between
CooperVision and the AOA have joined forces in a groundbreaking initiative to transform how optometrists treat children with myopia. The Myopia Collective aims to unite our profession and its allies to challenge the status quo and elevate the standard of care for children with myopia. Everyone is invited to become a member of the collective. By joining, you pledge to act in slowing childhood myopia progression. Membership includes regular updates and information about the collective's efforts, access to educational opportunities and resources, and insights from the ambassador optometrists who advocate for community policy and changes supporting the collective's mission. Click the link in the show notes to join the collective today.
What we will call triggers. So triggers when we ask a question that is closed-ended, that it forces the doctor to act. You'll hear me talk about that. It forces the doctor to act. And it actually gives me a pause to take more time so I can dive deeper into that by asking open-ended questions. But in any case, that's the difference between getting to the point where I can ask more deep and thought-provoking questions of my patients in a way that is similar to how I'd want to be communicated with and how we hope that we're communicating in our new media platform as podcasting. So, as I think about this, there was a great article recently from the Beverly Hills Publishing that I'll link in the show notes, and it's called How Conventional Media Differs from New Media, and it breaks it down pretty clearly. Old media, TV, print, traditional radio, is top down, it's scripted, it's built around deadlines, word counts, and sometimes, unfortunately, agendas. And the story often gets written before the interview even starts, and our job as the interviewee is to say the lines that make the story possible. But in the new media and podcasts and YouTube and other social media, emails, newsletters, it's different. It's built on trust. It's built on access. It's built on authenticity. There's room to think out loud, to explore an idea without having all the answers from the start. There's space to be human. And that's what I want to live in with my patients. So again, if I try to do everything that I've got to do in a very finite amount of time, during a broad, comprehensive exam, that's what I would think of as old media, right? It's scripted. I've got to check this box and that box and this box. But if I can figure out a way to get from that old media situation in my comprehensive exam to take time to be able to develop the authenticity and the trust and the access that the patient has to me, and really think out loud and evaluate what that patient is saying, now That's my space to be human. That's where I get to excel, and we get to excel as being clinicians. But unfortunately, the old media in this scenario is run by managed vision care plans and insurance bureaucracies and time deadlines and integration that's vertical. And so if we just get stuck in that old media landscape of the comprehensive exam where I got to do every single thing in that one specific visit, I'll never be able to unlock what's potential within the new media space or the deep dive that I can give, and I can serve the patient by a separate, deeper evaluation. So in any case, I hope that I have tied these two things together. That's where I land. So in any case, in this new world, both from a podcast standpoint and from a patient care standpoint, my role isn't to be the hero. My role isn't even to be polished. I mean, on this podcast, I don't know that we've necessarily been polished. I want to have good audio quality. I want to have some pretty decent video quality, but I'll stumble and I'll mess my words up. My role is to just be honest with a patient. I'll make mistakes with patients. We'll do everything we can do to take good care of patients. And sometimes they don't have great outcomes, right? I hate to say it, but sometimes that's the case. But that's not necessarily because we gave bad care. It's because that people are human. And so I can stay on point. I can have a clear message about who I am and what I do and what I believe. And I don't have to bridge away from important questions in order to stay in control. And in this space in my practice, in order to do that, I have to be able to have a time set aside specifically for that patient with that specific condition so we can dive deeper into it. For the podcast and for media, we don't need to play along with stories that have already been written, where we're just there to provide supporting quotes. We can have plain human conversations that actually mean something beyond a slick soundbite that nobody remembers. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt that tension, maybe you've been asked to stick to a script, or you've been told that a story is more important than the truth, I see you, I hear you, and I want to invite you into a different kind of space, one where the story unfolds honestly, where we investigate instead of perform, and where we speak like people, not like PR machines. And that's the space we're building here at iCode and Practice Performance Partners, but it's also the space that you can refine and build within your practice by diving deeper into your clinical conversations with patients at a specific time so that you have the ability to dive deep and have the conversations with your patients. I hope this was helpful. As always, reach out, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.